We are continuing with the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj from the book I Am That. Now, the questioner begins with this, that there is a world that he lives in, and in that world he experiences tension, stress, worry, regrets, the world of happening, phenomenality. But Maharaj says that his world is very different from what Maharaj experiences. In Maharaj's world, nothing is actually happening. So Maharaj explains his world as the changeless, whereas the world of the questioner is the one of change. So I'll just read this a couple of lines from the book. Maharaj says, "Your world is transient, changeful. My world is perfect, changeless. You can tell me what you like about your world. I shall listen carefully, even with interest. Yet, not for a moment shall I forget that your world is not, that you are dreaming." You see, there is a fundamental difference between what the questioner is experiencing and what Maharaj is explaining. Questioner lives in the world of thoughts. It is the mind that creates thoughts, and it is the mind that gives reality to those thoughts, that gives weight to those thoughts. And usually, what happens is that we get so caught up in our thinking, in our stories, in our limited perception of life, that we feel helpless. We feel that there is no way out of this conundrum, because it is the mind which is creating the problem, and the mind is only trying to find the solution. And you see, I speak to a lot of people, and a majority of them have this typical issues, issues related to money, issues related to relationships. But, they don't really examine where all of these thinking comes from. So I know this person who is a very successful businessman now. There was a time when he was in debts, and his business at that time was not doing well. So he needed money. And then he said that, this thing is actually on my mind 24 hours. And because of it, his relationship, with his wife, his family, everything is getting disturbed. And he wanted a solution. Now, I don't know anything about the business world, so I could not give him any solution. But what I told him was that, something wonderful might happen if he looks at the source from where the problem is arising. And after some time, a new possibility came to him, which was not there earlier. And this was that he lived in a mansion which was worth millions of dollars. So this person, he just abruptly decided that he's going to sell off the property and buy a sober accommodation for himself and his family, and use that money for his business and to pay off the debts. Now, earlier he had not thought about it because he was trying to find a solution from a perspective where he was closely identifying with an image. I am so and so. I own this. I own this business. This is my house. The worth of my house is this. I have so many cars. The worth of my cars is this. So, what would people say if I sell my house? That would lower my stature, things of those nature. But then he thought, that what if he sells the house? What is the worst thing that is going to happen? He can still afford a sober accommodation. He can still live a good life. His family is there. His family is healthy. His children are doing well. What is the problem? So, just by not doing anything, sitting with oneself, he came to this clarity that there is an alternative. You see, in that space of silence, in that changeless being, infinite possibilities come into picture. Because in that state, in the state of being, in the state of pure witnessing, there is no mind. So there is no concern with the right or wrong decisions. The decisions happen spontaneously. And with this knowledge that I am not the doer of my actions, but the actions are being done through me, I don't concern myself with the outcome of my decisions. So I leave the outcome to the universe. If the outcome works in my favor, I don't create any arrogance. And if the outcome does not work in my favor, I don't create any regret. So you see, in that space of pure awareness, in witnessing, there is a sense of immense freedom. And that is what Maharaj is pointing to here. Maharaj is saying that, he's saying, my world has no characteristics by which it can be identified. You can say nothing about it. I am my world. My world is myself. My world is single and very simple. But this is very difficult for the questioner to conceptualize, because silence is not an experience. The changeless is not an experience by the individual, because individual itself is a movement. So the movement cannot know change in all its purity. All the individual can do is drop the sense of personal volition, and then the changeless becomes apparent on its own. Again, this is very hard to explain with words. And even Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj says here that it is very difficult for words to conceptualize all this. The questioner asks here that since you are describing your world as an experience, isn't this a duality? And Maharaj is saying that yes, verbally it is a duality because the words are being spoken. Now you see, I am talking about non-duality with you. So from my perspective, I am the subject speaking and you are the object listening. And from your perspective, you are the subject listening and I am the object speaking. So you see, we cannot avoid duality because it is what is. But the substratum of this, all of this, is the awareness. It's the changeless awareness. So in that awareness, there are infinite possibilities. So I'll read further. Maharaj says, in your world, the unspoken has no existence. In mine, the words and their contents have no being. In your world, nothing stays. In mine, nothing changes. My world is real, while yours is made of dreams. The talk is in your world. In mine, there is eternal silence. My silence sings. My emptiness is full. I lack nothing. You cannot know my world until you are there. You see, the language of emptiness is silence, and silence is beauty. Silence cannot be explained with words, it has to be felt. Now, it seems, from this discussion that there are two worlds that are being spoken of. One is the phenomenal world, which the questioner is experiencing, in which he experiences all the turbulent emotions, all the worries and regrets, and this and that. And then there is Maharaj's world, which is completely changeless, completely devoid of any object, pure blank, nothingness. But you see, these two are not two. They are one and the same. The changeless is in the change, and the change is the changeless. You cannot know either without the other, one without the other. So again, the questioner is not convinced. So he further he further poses a question. He says that what do I gain by in your world? What is the use of your world? So Maharaj says that it is not about any use. The advantage, the gain of silence is only a contemplation of the thinking mind, which is the individual's concern. But in the absolute silence, there is no individual. So there are no questions in silence. You see, we always imagine like this, We see the world as full of problems, and we are trying to find solutions from that very perspective. But every solution gives rise to new problems. There was a time when the human effort was too much into things, into building infrastructures like bridges and this and that. So we invented machines. We invented technology to bring about convenience, comfort. But now the same technology is disrupting climate. Not only just climate, it is also impacting us psychologically, because we are not working out as much as we should, as much as the body demands. So we are facing a load of psychological issues. So you see, every problem that we that we assess and identify in phenomenality as a problem, it is simply a thought. A thought that appears, plays, and vanishes in consciousness, in awareness. So awareness is the only reality, the changeless awareness that Maharaj talks about here. And all this discussion, this whole book, I Am That, is one giant pointer to that, and only to that. Maharaj says here, he says, there are no ruler and ruled here. There is no duality whatsoever. You are merely projecting your own ideas, your scriptures, and your gods have no meaning here. So he says that you don't gain anything here. You don't solve anything here. Problems of this world, phenomenal world, the samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, pain, suffering, the interconnected opposites of good and evil, this duality is not to be solved, it is to be seen the way it is. And that seeing cannot happen from a limited perspective. It requires a broader, wider vision. And the witness is the infinite vision that sees everything the way it is. While the individual always distorts the perception. Because the individual is a bundle of thoughts. So that is why Maharaj says that, in my world, the weather is always fine. There is no changing weather in my world. While in your world, it is sometimes sunny and bright and you're happy, and sometimes it is raining and gloomy and then you're sad. My world stays the same, says Maharaj. So you see, all this discussion is again, the questioner comes from that place where his ego is questioning all of this. The mind does not want to leave thinking. The mind is the thinking, you see. So mind is not all that interested in its own resolution. And each and every pointer that is being spoken by Nisargadatta Maharaj is to end that mind, that sense of personal identification. Mind remains caught up in its own stories. I did this, I did that. My life is not good. I am not that successful. Others are doing so well, I am not doing that all that well. Others are having such a good time, apparently on the social media, and my life is in mess. My relationships are in mess. I am overweight. I am this, I am that. And you see, we have created a world where we come up with superficial solutions on a daily basis. All those solutions are to create a perfect human being, perfect person that sets well in this society, that adjusts in this society, the whole machinery. But we never look at ourselves as to who is experiencing all of this. Is there really an entity within that is experiencing all of this, or is the experiencing only a happening? You see, when we talk to another person, we are not actually talking to the person, we are not looking at the person the way they are. We always project an image on the other. And from that filter, we bring up communication. And this is why we are not able to form genuine relationships with the other. We conform to an image within ourselves and then we project an image onto the other. So all the communication is happening between two images. This was the concept given by Jiddu Krishnamurti. While the reality is not the images, because images are made up of thoughts. So you don't actually see another person, you're always interacting with yourself only, with your own created projections, your scriptures, gods, everything is just your projection. But the witness sees things the way they are. The witness is the changeless awareness. And that is what Maharaj is pointing to here. being in that space, in that area of restfulness, where there is no person, where there's only the pure being, infinite possibilities arise. So I think we'll conclude this discussion for now. We'll continue in the next video.